Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. I am so pleased to see everyone here. This is a really, it's a challenging and troubling time, but it's an exciting time because of the opportunities. So again, good morning. My name is Angel Swanson, and I am the founder and executive director of Feeding Feasible Feasts. We're a 501 Washington State nonprofit. And a little bit about myself. I consider myself an entrepreneur and a trailblazer. And I was called out by the Tacoma Times a few years back as a serial entrepreneur. I don't know what. I've successfully founded, managed 7 diverse businesses, 4 of which I sold, and 3 that I still have. I believe I bring a fresh perspective and innovation to each industry that I enter. Currently, I'm the proud owner of 3 retail cannabis licenses and this nonprofit. In addition to my business ventures, I'm a licensed private pilot. I'm a graduate of the University of Illinois with a BS, an avid scuba diver, and a motorcycle enthusiast. Right now, my family and I were establishing 2 permaculture homesteads, one in Nevada and one in California. I'm the mother of 7 and the grandmother of 11 people volunteering at their schools and plotting adventures. Within the food industry, my company has earned its recognition for groundbreaking approaches and dedication to social responsibility. We've developed 4 unique programs that not only showcase originality and innovation, but also provide effective solutions and relief to disadvantaged communities. We've been featured on Como and King 5 multiple times, as well as several local print media outlets. It's your volume. There we go. There we go. Perfect. I currently sit on the Food Justice Coalition that is being hosted by the United Way. I am also a member of this presenting team, nationally recognized Fresh Food Coalition, and other food insecurity agencies. My journey is driven by commitment to excellence, a passion for innovation, a deep-seated desire to make a positive impact across all of my endeavors. Some of the things that I enjoy doing, I'm the chair of the Edgewood Development Advisory Board. I am a Washington State delegate for the 10th Legislative District this year. And I've got a nice long list of councils and things that I've been privileged to sit on, but I will say that I was the Pierce County Democratic Chair and Vice President for 7 years. Pierce County 10th Legislative Democratic Vice Chair, the Cannabis Advisory Committee that I was appointed on by the governor. Washington State Board of Health, Social Equity, and Cannabis Task Force as of last year, where we devised a way to make cannabis licensed retail ownership available to more people of color. Our focus for Feeding Feasible Feasts is we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we strive hard to reduce stigma, increase awareness around food insecurity, while increasing dignity and meeting everyone where they are in their journey. We currently operate in 5 counties, providing food and basic commodity relief with an operating budget that I won't discuss. Today, I don't know why she put that on here. Today, I'm here to speak to you about food sovereignty, a topic that I hold near and dear for my entire life without knowing it had a name and an identity. I come from a Black family first introduced to the United States as slaves. My great-grandfather was hung in his front yard for the crime of growing his own crops and teaching others to read. My endeavors into the cannabis business is based on my grandmother, who grew it in her backyard and used it medicinally, along with so many other herbs and roots. I did not become a fierce advocate immediately. As a matter of fact, I was rather afraid of all the legal implications that it had, especially on African Americans in the United States. I remember when I was a teenager in high school, and my mother saying to me, do not use drugs. And not just because they're bad for you, but because they will throw you not in the jail, but under it, and you won't come back. So I steered clear of that plant until I turned 45. When my adult children learned how to medicate uh, severe intestinal issues by eating it. They had friends that were giving them pot cookies at college while they were on scholarship. And I found out, I lost my mind and immediately began trying to figure out how to tell these children that this was a horrible idea. And I couldn't find anything to prove to them that this was a horrible idea. So I made sure that if they did get arrested, that they at least had a defense. Historically, the practice of African American women as they came here to the United States of carrying food seeds in their hair during the transatlantic slave trade is a powerful symbol of resistance, survival, hope, and maintaining food sovereignty. The historical practice underscores the ingenuity and resourcefulness of enslaved Africans who, despite facing unimaginable hardships, sought to preserve their heritage and ensure future survival. While many other cultures practice methods of preserving food sovereignty, today I will be covering the efforts of food sovereignty as experienced by my people, as this is where my firsthand knowledge begins. So a little historical context. During the transatlantic slave trade, millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homelands and transported to the Americas and Europe under brutal conditions. Stripped of their possessions and separated from their families, many enslaved Africans found creative ways to preserve their culture and ensure their survival in the New World. One such method was to braid the seeds of their favorite plants to grow wherever they landed and into their hair. Now, mind you, for us as African Americans, we braid our hair for lots of reasons: beauty, maintenance, lots of things. We have been known to braid maps, not paper maps, but actually the patterns of trails to escape slavery. Braiding our hair has always been and always will be a way for us to communicate and be who we are. These crops included several basic starches central to the African diet. For instance, rice, okra, black-eyed peas, cassava, yams, kidney, and lima beans. Other crops brought from Africa included peanuts that originally came from South America, millet, guinea melon, licorice, watermelon, and sesame. We brought the cola nut here, and that's what they used to make Coca-Cola. What we did in those days is we chewed the nut in order to get the caffeine. African Americans, enslaved Africans also brought okra, yams, black-eyed peas, and many different varieties of peppers. These foods are commonly eaten in the United States today. Types of seeds, sowing skills, irrigation technologies, and processing techniques were among the expertise enslaved peoples contributed especially to wetland rice farming. So when we talk about purpose and symbolism, we want to talk a little bit about survival, cultural preservation, and resistance and hope, because that's the path. The reason for carrying seeds was survival. When we brought those seeds of essential food crops, we knew it would be crucial to sustenance in the harsh conditions that we were sure we would endure. Carrying these seeds was also an act of cultural preservation. These crops were integral to African diets and agricultural practices. By bringing these seeds, enslaved Africans sought to maintain a connection to their homeland and preserve their cultural traditions. And my favorite part, the practice was seen as a form of resistance. It represented a refusal to be completely stripped of their identity and an act of hope for a future where they could once again cultivate their own food. Women use those intricate braiding techniques to hide and secure those seeds in their hair. These braids were not only practical, but also a form of artistic expression, reflecting the rich cultural heritage of African communities. Can you imagine the essential nutrition that they carried with them? The cultural significance and legacy of this practice is profound. The crops that ensured Africans brought with them played a significant role in developing the agricultural and culinary landscapes of the Americas. The expertise of West African rice growers significantly influenced rice cultivation in the Americas, particularly in southern United States. Okra, which many don't eat, but I know a lot of my people do, is a vegetable that has become a staple in southern cuisine. You'll find it in your gumbo. Today, the practice of carrying seeds and making naps in their hair is recognized as a testament to the resiliency and ingenuity of these enslaved Africans. It highlighted the crucial role that they played in the agricultural development here. So let's talk a little bit more about a holistic approach to food systems, because that's what food sovereignty is. The key principle number one focuses on food for people, the food of the community. People's need for and right to food must be at the center of policies. Everyone must have safe access, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food in significant quantities and quality to sustain a healthy life with full human dignity. Each nation should declare that access to food is a constitutional right and guarantee the development of the primary sector to ensure the concrete realization of this fundamental right. As we build on skills and knowledge, we need to build on the traditional knowledge used to research and support this and pass it on to future generations. We also need to reject or at least dramatically reduce technologies that undermine or contaminate local food systems. We need to work with nature. We need to optimize the contribution of ecosystems and improve resilience through the use of diverse agroecological, I still cannot pronounce that. She has given me, I asked my daughter 3 times, would you pronounce this for me? And she did, and I still can't do it. Sorry. Of diverse production, harvesting methods that enhance ecosystem resilience and adaptation, especially in the face of climate change. Who here has seen the movie, the documentary, the Biggest Small Farm? Watch it. If you haven't seen it, it's a documentary, it's for free, it's on Netflix, and I think you can even get it on YouTube. It is the story of people who move into an area that is so unfriendly to growing food, and they turn to practices that are natural. They regenerate the soil, they bring in crops that help generate the soil, they bring in animals to support that, and it's a full ecosystem on a farm, and it is a beautiful thing to see. And my family and I are doing that in 2 areas right now, both in Nevada and California, because permaculture and this type of farming are what will bring us back to nature, to one another, and to whatever spirit that you want to believe in. Support sustainable livelihoods for farmers and everyone involved in food production or harvesting, and respect their work. Reform is necessary. Giving landless and farming people, especially women, ownership and control of the land they work, and returning territories to indigenous peoples. The right to land must be free of discrimination on the basis of gender, religion, race, social class, or ideology. This land will belong to the people who work it. Recognize local food systems for what they are. Reduce the distance between food providers and consumers. Reject dumping and inappropriate food aid resist dependency on remote and unaccountable corporations for food and seed. Right now, my company, we just won a pilot grant with SPU, and it is a grant that we are working a full ecosystem through. Our goal is to, we've been assigned 25 stores through a local retail agency, local retail outlet. We pick up the food that they can't sell. When you buy a food and its last day on the shelf, you still have 5 days on that food. But a store will pull it and throw it in the garbage, and that food ends up in the landfill. So what we've done is there are divert bins in these stores. And if the food is honestly bad, then it is removed from its packaging and put into a divert bin to be composted. The food is that can be reclaimed and eaten by people who need it. We pick it up and we take it to other social service agencies that are already providing services to their clients. By rotating this food in such a manner, we ensure that people are being fed with food that would otherwise end up as trash. And it isn't trash. Place control over food systems in the hands of local food providers and reject the privatization of natural resources. Recognize the need to inhabit and share territories. We're not in competition. We have been led to believe that we are, and we are not. We're all doing the work. Lately, I have watched 4 social service and food agencies go under for lack of funding. This is through no fault of their own. This is legislative work. And I will tell you what I told a group yesterday. Start visiting your legislators once a week. It's great to do the one big day where we all go up on the hill and ask for money. They don't even show up to their offices because they know you're coming and you want to talk to them. So you end up with their aides. Call them, call them, call them, visit them, visit them, visit them every week. They need to know you by your first name. They need to know exactly what you do and how you do it and why. That is pivotal for you to survive, because what happens is when they go into legislate, they haven't heard from you. They haven't heard from any of us, really. And they think it's not important, because guess what else they don't receive from us? Data, metrics. Produce your data, produce your metrics, send it to them by email. Let them know what you are seeing, what is happening, why food sovereignty and food insecurity issues are important. They can't know unless we tell them, and we need to tell them en masse, every week if possible. Buying local food supports the local economy. If you have a local farm or a local food stand, go there first before you go to Safeways or Albertsons or Winco. Go there first, because what will happen is you're going to spend your money on the food that is good for you, that is nutritious, and it supports your local food economy. Then go to Safeways and get your toilet paper and all that. But understand that your dollars matter, because that's what supports your local community. Shopping keeps your money within the community, promoting higher living standards, better health, and a more vibrant local economy. Food sovereignty also creates safer food supplies. Recent food safety concerns, such as the August 20, there have been lots of E. coli breakouts, but there was a really big one, I don't know if you remember, in 2022. And it was infected lettuce out of the Midwest, in my hometown, near my hometown. It highlights the risk in long supply chains. Buying locally grown food supports safer food chains, and it reduces the risk of contamination, providing confidence that your food is safe and healthy. Transparency. Can we talk about transparency a little bit with food sovereignty? Local growers can tell you how the food was grown. Knowing the details about your food, the water usage, the soil composition, gives you a greater confidence and control over what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, in the bodies of your children, in the bodies of your friends and neighbors. This transparency is often lost in larger industrial food supply chains. Reduce waste. I guarantee you, if you go to that food stand and you buy your oranges and apples and eat that first apple and discover how actually really delicious it is, you're not going to be throwing that stuff away later. You're going to eat all of it. You need every bite. But that bag of lettuce that you probably bought someplace that sat in the vegetable crisper for 3 days and now it looks kind of brown and watery on the bottom, you're not eating that. Fresh, local food is just fresher. It just tastes better. Supermarket produce is often weeks old. By the time you get it from the grower, it ships up here. If you know the food chain, you know, right? They pick it in mass. They send you only the best looking stuff. It gets to the distributor. The distributor takes it to the grocery. The grocery finally puts it out for you. By the time you get it, it's got like 3 days on it, right? Supermarket produce is often weeks old, necessitating immediate consumption to avoid spoilage. Local foods harvested at their peak often taste better and have longevity, ensuring a fresher and more enjoyable eating experience and saving you a whole lot of money. Key principles, another key principle I'll touch on is chemical usage. Industrial farms spray their plants because they don't have the natural resources available to them to take care of it. If you ever, I have a very large garden or a very small mini farm, I don't know, however you want to look at it, and a small orchard. Yesterday I looked underneath some of my tomato leaves, I had aphids. Did I worry about it? No. You know why? Because for my pests, I actually have a pond that I made in my front yard, and there are frogs in it. I put frogs in it. Guess what frogs like? All those yummy bugs. I picked that one aphid off and killed it, and got rid of it. But I don't worry because I have natural resources to handle what needs to be handled instead of spraying my plants. Most producers don't use the same pesticides and herbicides that commercial farmers use. Locally grown foods sold within the community that they're harvested in don't require preservatives and chemicals for an extended shelf life. By asking your local grower, you can ensure your food is grown with organic or natural pest repellents. And be careful because if you actually get the grower that grew the food, it might be there for a minute while they tell you all the stuff. So be ready. There is increased nutrition in this effort. Locally grown food is more nutritious due to the absence of chemicals and its freshness and its seasonal nature. Seasonal food harvested at its natural peak is more nutritious and flavorful. So if you're buying cauliflower in the spring, it's not going to taste so good. But if you're buying cauliflower later in the spring or in the fall, it's going to be amazing. We talked a little bit about dietary benefits, but also think of the allergen contaminants, providing an option for those who are sensitive to hormones and preservatives and other chemicals. How many people do you personally know, because I know at least 7, that have allergies to certain chemicals on certain foods that they can't eat it, right? But if you're growing it locally, that stuff's absent and all of a sudden that kid can eat the lettuce. It's kind of amazing. This allows people with dietary sensitivities to enjoy nutritious and delicious foods without any unnecessary health risks. You're not in there, I mean, you should wash your fruits and vegetables, but let's face it, if you've got an apple tree in your front yard and you're walking by and you pluck an apple, you're not going to run back in the house and rinse that thing off. You're probably going to do this and eat it because you trust that it hasn't been sprayed. Genetic diversity is also important. Local farming promotes genetic diversity, which is crucial for robust and resilient crops. Unlike large-scale farms that use identical genetic strands, so that lettuce always, when they line them up in the grocery store and they look all exactly alike, and you're like, I guess I want this one. Unlike large-scale farms that often use those genetic strands, local farmers can grow a variety of genetic strands and raise diverse animal breeds. They can save the seeds. Who here knows where a seed bank is? They exist. There are people who collect seeds and have what are called heritage seeds, that you can grow tomatoes that are purple, naturally purple, or corn that is a bright red. That sounds shocking and maybe for some people, maybe not appetizing, but those things are there and they're natural and they're for you. They grew here on just because the universe said you should have it. How about that? This diversity helps create a healthier ecosystem and it offers consumers more food choices. So if you ever walked into a grocery store and you see white corn and yellow corn, those are your choices. But what if you walked into a grocery store and saw white corn, yellow corn, red corn, and some corn that was like all different colors? You're gonna spend a minute thinking about that. Hopefully you're gonna try something new. Food is a sacred gift. It's sacred. Food is the gift of life, and it's not to be squandered. It cannot be commodified. The season of sacred traditions, from the winter solstice to Hanukkah, Yule, Kwanzaa, Christmas, all highlight the importance of gathering together and centered around what? Food, right? You gonna roll in there that holiday, and everybody brought something, right? And there's a food that y'all know you're not gonna eat all of it, and everybody's gonna have a refrigerator full of leftovers when they leave. Yes. How about if that food was all natural? How about if that was food that everybody grew and they brought it with them? How exciting would that be? The sacred process should extend beyond the holidays, reminding us to value food and the act of sharing meals as central in our daily lives. By reclaiming the sacred nature of food, we can foster deeper connections with each other and our environment. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between food security, insecurity, or food security, and food sovereignty, because they are two different things. And I have way too many people who come and we talk, and I realize that they really don't know that they are separate, fully separate conversations. Food security focuses on people's ability to access adequate food. It understands food as a traded commodity and hunger as a result of insufficient production and lack of access. Food security also is less insecurity is or security is also focused on production and procurement methods, right? How do we get it made and how do we get it? We want to make sure everybody's got some of this yellow corn. It's based on 4 pillars: food availability, food access, food use, and the stability of those 3 things. Food sovereignty focuses on food producers' rights to determine local food systems. It recognizes food as a right and understands hunger as a problem of food governance, unequal distribution, and injustice. Many of us know that is a detail that creates the need for deeper understanding of whom you're trying to serve. Believe me when I say food injustice is a commercial entity question. So I, not too long ago, had a conversation with someone who called me because I'm Black. We're friends, but he did call me because I'm Black. And he says, hey, I'm trying to put together a box of food to distribute. What do you all like to eat? I said, there's nothing I want to eat that you're going to put in that box. I promise you. And I also will promise you that depending on the region, African Americans eat different foods. So the folks up here don't eat nearly as much okra as the foods down south. We just have different diets because guess what? Locality matters. Small-scale farmers and other food producers at the center of the food system, and it highlights relationships between communities and nature. Everyone must have access to safe, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food in sufficient quantities and quality to sustain a healthy life with full human dignity. Think about that. What would that look like? Each nation should declare that access to food is a constitutional right, period. It should guarantee the development of the primary sector to ensure the concrete realization of this fundamental right. I grow a lot of my own food. I give a lot of my own. That's how my company got started. It was at the top of COVID. I had joined a group, national group. Some of you may know it. It's called Food is Free. There are thousands of us across the country who have way too much food that we're growing that we can eat all right now. So you put a little card table on the corner with a sign that says food is free. We take all the extra stuff and put it on the table. People take it. Couldn't be an easier distribution method, right? Top of COVID, I was putting out sage and some other things, and I started noticing there was a line of cars across the street waiting for me to put this food out there. And I thought, ooh, that's a problem. So I started putting out more and more food, and more food. And the company eventually grew. One of the things we do with our company, we teach, because what I ended up needing to do was not only grow my garden and find access to bulk food to give to people, but I need to teach people how to preserve their food. How many people here know how to can their food? How many people here know how to dehydrate their food? How many people here know how to properly freeze their food? There are several ways to preserve food. You should know at least those three. If you're growing your own food, I started raising my own chickens. I can process 50 chickens in an afternoon by myself. Learn how to do those things. It isn't hard. I grew up in Chicago on the South Side. Believe me, I was not slaughtering chickens. But I learned how. And I learned how because I decided that my family needed food that spoke to us, that was healthy, that made a difference in our life. I planted trees that Sophia gave me, cherries and plums, apricots, and then I purchased some trees, pomegranates and oranges that could live in the state. I started growing my own nut trees because what I discovered was I could literally feed my family for months without buying anything from the grocery. I grow my own herbs, I dry them, I crush them, I bottle them. It doesn't take all day. It isn't a whole life thing where I'm spending my whole day every day doing this. I'll pick a day a week, I'll go outside, pick some stuff, give it away, process it, do whatever I'm gonna do, and move on with my life. It is so much simpler than going to the grocery store. Growing those plants, especially with frogs, I'm gonna tell you. Here in Washington, you don't have to water so much, but I have automatic sprinklers in, so I don't worry about it. It isn't something that feels overwhelming. Embracing food sovereignty means supporting local economies, promoting safer and more nutritious food, and fostering a more sustainable and inclusive food system. Now there are several, I did a little internet search, so I wrote that stuff because that's stuff I know, right? So I did a little internet search. And what I found were these 7 pillars of food sovereignty. And with a little tweaking, they make sense. So food is a basic human right. We've talked about that, right? Everyone should have food. No if, and, or buts about it. You don't have to qualify for food. You shouldn't have to anyway. It should just be there for you to have. One of the classes we teach in our camp, I have a camp that we do in the summer where we invite West African immigrants to come. And it's not for the children, it's for the whole family. And the reason we picked a lot of these families is because they have suffered food deprivation. And food deprivation is different than starvation, and it's different than food insecurity. Food deprivation means it is a long haul with very little food. That is deprivation. And when we teach, our 3rd class is what? I can eat flowers. We literally take them to the forest and show them, here are all the things you can eat. You can make food from this. You can eat these things and be full and happy and feel good. And it's healthy for you. And once people learn they can feed themselves, food sovereignty, when people learn they can feed themselves, how freeing do you think that really is? How much relief do you think comes with that? The therapist that we use during these classes, because we do use a therapist to help us, says that that relief creates a situation where they can think about other things. You're not going to wake up in the morning, first thing is, how am I going to feed these babies? Right? You can think about other things now because food is a right. It should be available to you at all times. Everyone must have access to safe, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food in significant quantity and quality to sustain a healthy life with human dignity. My daughter hates that sentence, and I don't care. I'm going to say it again. Everyone must have access to safe, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food in significant quantity and quality to sustain a healthy life with human dignity. Period. That is number one. The second is natural reform. A genuine natural reform is necessary. It's necessary. Ownership and control of the land for the people who work it and returning territories to indigenous people. The right to land must be free of discrimination on all bases. That's the second principle. Everyone should have access. So the next time your city sets up a pea pot, one of those pea patches, go in there and ask them, how do we make this thing bigger? Seriously. My city is like, oh my God, here she comes. But it's 3 times the size it was when I got there. Protecting natural resources. Food sovereignty entails the sustainable care and use of natural resources, especially land, water, and seeds, and livestock breeds. Period. People who work the land must have the right to practice sustainable management of natural resources, conserve biodiversity, and be free of restrictive and have free, unrestricted intellectual rights to the foods they develop. Right? Because that's a thing. That's a thing. Try to buy seeds for some of your favorite stuff you buy at the store. You're not going to find it. They have intellectual rights to that property. You do not. Right? Try. How many of you discovered that you ate an apple or something that you loved, you saved the seeds, you tried to grow it, and it wouldn't grow? They sterilize those. You cannot grow them. They do it on purpose, so you can't grow them. Or reorganizing food trade is number 4. Food is first and foremost a source of nutrition and only secondarily an item of trade. Think about that. First and foremost, it's nutrition. In some kind of way, it became a money-making endeavor. And a huge money-making endeavor. Not everybody can grow food. Not everyone has the time, talent, right? Resources. But see, in a real food sovereignty space, they have a time and talent for something. That's where trade comes in, right? I grow some food, my neighbor made a quilt. We trade. Ending the globalization of hunger. Food sovereignty is undermined by multilateral institutions and speculative capital. The growing control of corporations over agricultural policies has been facilitated by the economic policies of organizations such as the TWO, World Bank, and the IMF. Regulation and taxation of speculative capital and strictly enforced code of conduct is therefore needed. We need to step in and stop these cats from doing what they're doing to us. That's what that says. Because they literally meet in large pods and decide how they're going to make money off of selling us things that they think we need. And social peace. This is my favorite one. Everyone has the right to be free from violence. Say it again. Everyone has the right to be free from violence. In addition to that, food must not be used as a weapon. Increasing levels of poverty and marginalization in the countryside, along with the growing oppression of ethnic minorities and indigenous populations that aggravate situations of injustice and hopelessness. The ongoing displacement, forced urbanization, repression, and increasing incidents of racism of smallholder farmers cannot be tolerated. We can't keep moving them out. We gotta let them stay in the community. We have to make space. That's why I am on the Economic Development Committee in my city, because we need to make space. And now I'm the chair. Things are changing. The last one, democratic control, and that's small d. Smallholder farmers must have direct input into formulating agricultural policies at all levels. And I say this especially because I do have friends in my industry who are movers and shakers. And they talk to the policyholders. They talk to the legislators regularly. They're all good friends. And guess whose policies suggestions are not heard? Ours. We're the ones who are doing it. We're the ones who need it. We're the ones who have to eat it. But our words are not heard. Our thoughts are not heard. Our thoughts are not taken into consideration because we don't make them available. See, that lies on us, not just solely on them. Now, see, frankly, any office I've ever held, I ask. I go out into my community and I ask. And people are stunned. Really? I don't know how I feel about that. Can I call you back? That tells you they don't even have the opportunity to think about it because they've already assumed that their opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion matters. Make it known. Make it known. One of the things that I had to get used to when I first moved into the state was polite conversation. I didn't know how to have it. I can only talk about the weather and sports so many times. At some point, I want to talk about the things that this community needs to have happen, right? And I find people doing this. Right? Make your thoughts known. Everyone has the right to be honest, accurate information, and open in a democratic decision-making space. You have those rights. These rights form the basis of good governance, accountability, and equal participation in economic, political, and social life, free from all forms of discrimination. Because if we all show up, it's kind of hard to discriminate against some folks, because everybody's in the room. These rights form the basis of good governance. Rural women, in particular, must be granted direct and active decision-making on food and rural issues. And I say women because historically, we don't get to. And two, who's cooking and feeding folks, generally speaking? So I'm going to open this space. If you have questions or you would like to make comments, I would love to hear them.